Well, thank you guys. It was really interesting. So I realize I'm so terrible at this, worst host, but I always forget to mention about the Q&A. So at the bottom of your screen, there is or should be a button for the Q&A. So if you click that, you can start to type in questions for John and Beth if you haven't already. So we will now be moving into the Q&A. I'll be reading out questions from there. So put your questions in there that you have about anything that they've shared. And I'm going to go to the Q&A now and just start to go over some of the questions. So first question, oh, but before I do that, let me just ask you as well to give us a little bit more information if you have any about the screening of your animation and how people can access that if they would like to find out more.
Shall I tackle that one? Because
You
I
can
can
go.
see the question in the Q&A. Cool. So yeah, there's a live screening this Friday afternoon in Sheffield City Centre. It's a theatre called the Theatre Deli. There should be plenty of spaces around. So I know this is global, and I know not everyone might be in Sheffield and might not be able to access it. But if you are on Friday, fancy it, it's free. I will post a link when I get hold of it. Really excited by that. It's only a 4-minute animation clip, so it's just nice to structure it around a little bit of background to the project to a different audience, screening the animation, and then hopefully Q&A. But to bring Cat back and have it interpreted right from the very start, it should be pretty special. I was saying earlier, it's different to try and organize an event in person that's accessible. Been nicely challenging.
Yeah, the
I'll find a link to it.
yeah, the video itself. So we wanted to, rather than write like an academic paper or anything like that, about our findings, we wanted to make it as visual as possible, and hopefully it's more accessible to the deaf community. And yeah, so we've like animated our findings, and I've kind of centered it around Jaws as an example of, and we've kind of got examples of like how you could make that iconic Jaws theme a bit more creative and a bit more descriptive for people and stuff like that. And then we talk about the recommendations that I mentioned in this talk as well, with animations and stuff. That's it in a nutshell.
And I think you mentioned that the video will also be on the University of Sheffield website. Is that right? Do you know where that is going to live?
Yeah, it's on a part of the Sheffield University website called the Player. I think the Player bit is launched and live, but I do know they're waiting for Friday for it to be officially launched, and then I think I'll be live after that. So future us, if that's not too daft a thing to say, we'll be able to post a link to the University Player, either via Slack or I'll ask for some help on how to do that. But yeah, after Friday, it should be around.
Right. Well, I think everyone will look forward to that. So now I will go into the Q&A. So first question from the Q&A. This is an anonymous question. So this person says, they're wondering whether after doing this research, do you still think that captions are the right solution for building suspense? Or do you think that there are other ways that suspense could be translated that are detected by other senses?
It's a good question. I do think sound is quite a big part of building suspense. There are kind of fundamental building blocks of building suspense. You've got to feel immersed in what you're watching. You need to feel connected, like emotionally connected to the characters, and you have to have that uncertainty element. And then like film itself, I guess, has got those fundamental building blocks of visuals and audio. And like I said, there's two types of audio that the characters in that world can hear, and then the kind of audio that the audience can hear. But in one of my recommendations was that I do think there are more creative and more visual ways I think that we could show audio, particularly to deaf audiences, because they're kind of seeing sound. But also I know a lot of people that we kind of met with, participants told us that when they go to the cinema, for example, like feeling the sound is also a big part of it. But not everyone is. If you're watching TV on your phone or on your laptop, perhaps you're not always getting all the senses. But yeah, I definitely do think there's more that could be done to make it, hit your other senses than just the captions. that answers it.
Did you have anything that you wanted to add to that, John?
No, Beth answered it perfectly for me.
I'll move on to the next question then. So Holly just says, thank you very much, both of you, for this important work. And then she says, I'm hard of hearing, and here in the US, we don't have movies with captions at all that I know of. How common is it in the UK? Also, what's the response from the local deaf community? Deaf and hard of hearing community. A lot of the time, special showings of anything for people with disabilities here are at the least desirable times possible when sales would be low anyway. It always feels very othered, even though it's meant to be inclusive. Are there any films that you think do captions well in terms of building suspense? I would love the haptic feedback of the bass vibration at the theater.
Yeah, we it's a shame that to hear that there isn't a lot of access. That sucks. But yeah, particularly for the UK cinemas, participants told us that same. They find it a struggle to go to the cinema at kind of normal times. Like a caption showing might be, midday on a Wednesday, and they're like, well, I have work then, so when am I going to go? And then say they do take the day off and they make the effort and they go, half the time then the captions might not even show up. So then they have to get up and go to the counter and be like, the captions aren't showing. And they've been offered, complimentary ticket, and it's just not been a great experience. And that's really putting people off, particularly from what I've heard in the UK, people going to the cinema. They want to go, they want to spend money and and see films at the same time as everyone else, but they're making it very hard. In terms of, I think there was a question about any films with good examples of building suspense. What I've found interesting is that films, I watch a lot on streaming platforms, not so much on live TV. So I'm watching, Netflix, Amazon, Now TV, all of that, and each one has their own captions. So you might watch Jaws on Netflix and then it goes off of Netflix and then you kind of see it pop up on Amazon Prime, and the captions will be completely different because that streaming company will have their own version with their own guidelines. And I think that consistency and quality isn't quite there yet. And so it's difficult to pick one because even if I recommend it, you might go watch it and it might be completely different. But from our research, I asked participants, which one did you feel the most suspense with from what we showed you? And I think it was pretty unanimous. It was A Quiet Place. It's probably the most suspenseful one, and I think because it's quite visual, and maybe it's because the theme of it is not to make noise, so it is very visual. There's lots of emphasis on that and not making noise. So the sounds are very important and are a really big plot line. So maybe that I really recommend going to watch A Quiet Place. It was really good, I thought. Did I cover everything in that? There was quite a lot in that one.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
I was just going to say, we did about 3 or 4 run-throughs of this because the recordings, the first one was about 15 minutes, like we were too eager and we had too much stuff, and we did cover more about this in a version that we had to cut down to like the 20 minutes that we were aiming for. It does come out in the animation as well, so I'll make sure that there's a link to it when it's in an accessible format and share that. Yeah, it's sad to hear that. Thanks for the question, Holly.
Yes, thank you, Holly. So next question then from Alicia. So Alicia writes, I'm really interested in learning more about how you interacted with your advisory board, especially since it sounds like it was very useful. Did you pay them for a certain number of consultation hours and then reach out as needed? How would you recommend approaching asking for budget for this if a team has never done this before?
Yeah, I'll take this one. Yeah, so we did. So there was 2 people on this one that we're talking about here, Celia and Tyrone. I worked with Celia on a project a number of years before and I really enjoyed it. So I reached out to Celia, or we reached out to Celia again a few years later for this. And I think it was her that recommended Tyrone as well, and there was a nice introduction there. Yes, we paid people for their time. I can do this. Yeah, we asked each of them, Celia and Tyrone, for their day rate, so an amount of money for 7 hours worth of their time. They were different amounts, so we went with a higher one, and we paid both of them the same higher amount for those 7 hours. And we asked if we could split those 7 hours worth of time across about 6 to 8 weeks. And we asked for sporadic bits of help throughout the project, and we gave them about 3, 4, 5 days worth of time to answer every question. We weren't looking for an immediate thing. And that's how it worked. So we wanted to do the right thing. We wanted it to be fair. We were never going to pay them different amounts. We had to pay, and we wanted to pay them the same amount. How do you get budget is a tough one. It's a lot easier if you happen to run a company and can make that decision. I don't know how easy it would be to do if you're working in a company or for a company. I would say that the value that we got from the money transaction is it's not even close. We got so much from it, from just a few £100s, and I'm not going to share the amount that we paid them. Hopefully there's enough information from that talk, but if you wanted to reach out and get even more, please do. I'd love to help so that this becomes the norm and we get help from experts and we pay people fairly for their time and equally as well. Beth, did I miss anything?
No, I think I'm not sure if you mentioned it because I was reading the chat, but if you can get the budget, and I think we mentioned it in the talk, I would really recommend having the deaf consultants as part of your research team, so that they're around from the start to finish. I think it would have been great to have them, for example, when we were like doing that thematic analysis afterwards of what we found during the project. That would have been amazing. I think, yeah, just as if you can get them in as much of your project as possible, because their insight is invaluable. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you. I've seen the chat as well, Alicia. It'd be lovely if this was a norm. Getting that WhatsApp message, or getting a WhatsApp message from Tyrone with his little 5-second video clip, it's just one of the best messages I've ever got. It was a lovely thing to see. Really chuffed with it.
All right. Well, thank you very much. That is it for our Q&A. So thanks for sharing that piece of really interesting research with us, which I was really fascinated to learn about. So we're now going to have a break until the next talk, which starts at past. So that's 2:30 p.m. GMT time for those who are on GMT. So I will see you all then.
Cheers all.
Thank you.